Welcome to a Horror Franchise Wednesday. Let's finish the Return of the Living Dead franchise with part 5 or 4. They both came out the same exact day, so I'm not sure which one's 4 or 5, but Rave to the Grave, we'll call it 5. This one is also written by William Butler, the guy who brought us the Ginger Dead Man trilogy and starred in Friday the 13th Part 7. This movie is not good. This is a party movie. It's a bunch of college kids partying. They make a zombie pill and they're all popping pills, and then they start turning into zombies and they start attacking each other towards the end. And meanwhile, you got these two Russians that are hired to get the rest of the trioxin and to clean up the mess that these college kids are making. And it's just very boring at times. It has moments where I was kind of having fun a little bit, but not that much fun. Not that much fun. Like, it's trying to be entertaining. It's trying to be a fun college zombie movie, but it just fails to be really all that entertaining. I mean, whoever this guy is on the back here from slasherpool.com says it's a very entertaining zombie flick and recommends it. I do not. This has a 3.3 on IMDb, just like Part 4, although I thought Part 4 was not deserving of a 3.3. I thought that should be like the 4s. This one, probably upper 3s, maybe about a 4 at best. This one was definitely a bit of a step down from Part 4 in my opinion. So, what are the things that I liked about this movie though? Let's go over that. This will be quick. I like that this movie sets movie around the holiday of Halloween. They have a big Halloween rave at the end, and because it's Halloween, when there's zombies, they just think that they're in costume. So I thought that was kind of clever, And I liked the aesthetic of the party at the end, the rave, all the neon lights and the black lights and the glow in the dark paint and shit like that. Just visually, I thought that stuff looked kind of cool. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool to set it on Halloween. And then there's some decent effects here. I'm not sure what the budget was for these, but these are straight to DVD movies, and you can tell 4 and 5, they are shot back to back. For some reason, 2005 was the year for shooting movies back to back in Romania. Like, you had Hellraiser Deader and Hellraiser Hellworld shot back to back in 2005 in Romania. And then you had, I think, The Prophecy 4 and 5 shot back to back in Romania. And then you had Return of the Living Dead 4 and 5 shot back to back in Romania, and some of it in Ukraine. But what the hell was going on in 2005? Let's just make all these shitty franchise sequels that no one's ever going to watch or give a shit about, or like in Romania. Let's go to Romania and make some shitty films. Speaking of which, Seed of Chucky came out in 2004. That was filmed in Romania around the same time. So Romania was making a lot of movies back then. But yeah, back to the effects. I thought they were okay. Especially if it's a lower budget film. They looked decent. Like the guy's hand, when it starts like bubbling and then like yellow pus is shooting out. I love the look of the new Tar Man. I thought that was kind of cool. It's a nice little wink to Part 1. And this movie, at the end of the day, it does not need to be called Return of the Living Dead. This is just money reasons. Like, let's just put a familiar title on it. That's what Hollywood does. They just take scripts and they're like, let's just throw this name on it. Black Christmas 2019, perfect example. All the Hellraiser sequels, they had nothing to do with Pinhead, but they threw it in there. They threw Hellraiser on the title. That's what they did with 4 and 5 in this franchise. Like, yes, they have trioxin. Yes, the zombies are saying brains, just like all the other ones. But is it a Return of the Living Dead movie? Not really. Not really. Like, there's not much continuity here, especially this one. This one has very confusing continuity. But yeah, I like the new Tar Man. Some of the effects are cool. There's like 2 kills that stood out that were fine, but every time there was a kill on camera and some gore happening, it would cut away really quickly because it was made for TV, I guess. Although there's a bunch of nudity, that's a positive. I like that. You know me. There's just a bunch of girls flashing their tits at this party throughout the film. You got girl, another girl, another girl. There's tons of girls just flashing their tits. And this is a made-for-TV movie, or straight to DVD, and it premiered on TV. But you can show that, but you can't show all this gore. Why? You're making a zombie flick. They should up the gore. So that's a negative. So yeah, let's just go over the bad things that I did not like about this movie. They cut away from the gore way too soon. Did not like that. And we got all the same bad actors from part 4. Now, their acting isn't as bad as it was in part 4 because I don't think they're being asked to do as much. There's not as much emotion as there was in 4. Like the main guy from part 4, he's back here playing the main guy again, except he's not losing all his loved ones left and right and giving the worst performance ever. They're still not good. Like, these actors are still pretty bad. It's very confusing, the continuity in this movie from this one to the other one. Like, like the characters, they're the same actors playing characters with the same name, and they have the same relation to each other. Like the uncle is played by the same guy. He's his uncle, but now he's not wanting to have world domination anymore, and he's like, I don't get it. Like, he even has like the truck from the end of part 4 with trioxin in the back of his truck. That's how the movie ended. Part 4, it ended with him driving away with trioxin in the back of his truck. This one opens up with the uncle with trioxin in the back of his truck, but it's not the same character. It makes no sense. And some characters that died are now alive again. So are they the same characters? Is it like an alternate universe? I have no idea. Maybe that was their way of paying tribute to Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Because that's exactly what they did there with James Karen and Tom Matthews. Same actors, kind of the same characters, but they don't remember the other movie. So I guess that's what they were going for here. Not a fan of it. And not a fan of the cringy-ass humor in this movie. The humor in 4 worked for me. I had a few chuckles. I thought it was a lot more clever than the humor in this movie, where you just have these awful Russian people. Like, the one Russian guy wasn't that bad. Like, he actually made me laugh once, so I'll cut him some slack. But there was quite a few lines from these Russians that were very cringy and eye-rolly. Like, they would just say, like, oh, let's go get Krispy Kreme. And it was supposed to be funny. Like, oh, let's go get donuts. And they're, like, trying to sound American and use American phrases and shit, but they're, like, saying it wrong. Like, instead of saying bullseye, he says bullshit. Something like that. There's just a lot of bad humor in the movie. And not enough humor. Not enough good humor. And hardly any humor really at all. But when there is humor, it just falls flat and it's cringy. And you're just like, oh, God. Like, this was quickly written and quickly thrown together, obviously. And, yeah, all the college kids, I didn't say it in my other review. I don't think I did, but if I didn't, I'll say it here. Characters in this movie and characters in that movie, bland, generic archetypes, just the typical college kids that you don't give a shit about. Although I found it odd that the one, like, token black guy, he was playing not only, like, the genius scientist student at college who, like, knew a bunch of big fancy words, but he was also playing, like, the stud guy at the party, like, handing drugs to people. Like, he was using his brains to create the zombie drug, and then he was also playing, like, the stud guy, the guy who could get all the chicks, and he was, like, the jock. So he's playing, like, 2 different characters in the same movie. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then the whole final showdown at the rave at the end, the thing that they're building up to, is lackluster. Like, they should have saved their budget for that final act. They should have went balls to the wall, crazy, like Dead Alive. Let's have body parts flying everywhere. Let's actually ramp this shit up, ramp up the action, ramp up the gore. But it's just very lackluster. And they use the same effect again and again and again, where they eat the brains very easily. Like, there's no skull on anyone's head. They just take one small bite and they have the brain in their mouth. They just do the same effect again and again and again. It's very redundant, very repetitive, and it's just lackluster. This should have been way crazier in the third act, but unfortunately, it's not. So, final thoughts. This is just a very lackluster, not very creative, not imaginative zombie flick that tries to be funny at times but doesn't succeed. It's got bad performances, not memorable characters. Nothing stands out here. There's just a couple of decent moments where it was slightly entertaining, but not enough for me to recommend it to you. It definitely is a straight to DVD sequel, and it feels like it. So when it comes to Return of the Living Dead Rave to the Grave, I recommend that you just skip this one because it's wasted time. Alright, it's time to talk about the things that I found noteworthy. So this movie opens up, confusingly, with the uncle with the trioxin, like I already talked about. So what the hell's going on there? Is it the same character? I don't know. Same faces, same character names. but not the same characters really. So what's going on here? The coach, his name is Savini. Tip of the hat to Tom Savini. And I laughed when there was a corpse on the table and you could clearly see it breathing. Like, the actor was breathing on set, obviously, because he's not dead, but he was supposed to be dead, but you can clearly see his chest moving up and down before they even put the trioxin on him. And then we get this guy who gets his head squeezed, get like a little Rick moment in Friday the 13th Part 3. His eyeballs like pop out of his skull. So that was a little moment I enjoyed. And so then we get the dork Becky, dork in quotes, from Part 4. She was the dorky girl, even though she was beautiful. Now she's the hot girl. Now she's got the boyfriend. They go to Lover's Lane, and then, she turns into a zombie and bites his dick. But before she bites his dick off, she yells brains, but then like goes for his crotch. So I guess he thinks with his dick, so his dick is his brains. Something like that. Is that the joke? I love that when his uncle's dead, this guy, the main actor, he's on like the football field, and instead of like taking him aside, or taking him to the office, have a police officer there, someone to like tell him face to face, like, hey, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your uncle died. Give him a moment, like send him home. They just hand him a note and like, here, read this. Sorry. And then the coach walks away. So he has to like open it and read it like, oh, my uncle died. Like, that's such an odd way to go about it. Like, here's a note, read it, try not to cry. So stupid. And then, so we get all these babes flashing their tits at the party, which is cool. And then we get these Russians. They're looking for the last remaining trioxin barrels that this kid finds at his uncle's place that's hidden in the wall. He's got a secret room, yada, yada, yada. And then they take it to the lab and they realize that, hey, this could be like a party drug. And the one guy, DJ Jeremy, takes a sip. He has like a high. He's like, this stuff's great. So they decide, let's make pills out of this shit. And we're going to hand it to people. We're going to make so much money. It's like, yeah, that's a smart idea. Let's take this foreign liquid that we don't know what the hell it is. We don't know what it's capable of if you take too much. Let's just go sell it to everybody on campus. Like this main guy who's like the brains, the genius scientist. Like he's so smart, but also a complete dipshit at the same time. Like, I'm going to hand this, potentially, dangerous liquid to everybody I know on college campus for money. It always comes down to money. Like, he's not thinking at all. So yeah, they just hand all these drugs to everybody on campus. Everybody's just buying it left and right. These 3 losers, they take like more than recommended. So of course, they become zombies right away. And then like this guy gets decapitated with a guitar. Like, this guy packs a mean swing. I mean, this guy's not a zombie or anything. He's got, just normal human strength, and he just whacks the head right off the zombie. And the other guy gets like drumsticks through the eyeballs, which we've seen before. And then we get the deadly blowjob scene, which I already talked about. So these Russians, they go to the main character's house and they're asking him about the containers, and he's denying that he's ever seen them. And then when he shuts the door, the Russians start talking out loud about their plans. Like, I don't trust a word he just said, and we're going to follow him. In case you're listening, we're going to follow him everywhere he goes. Like, he could be right there on the other side of the door listening to what you're saying right now. So now he knows that you're going to be his tail for the rest of the day, like following him wherever he goes. But he doesn't hear them, which is bullshit, because when it cuts back to him on the other side of the door, he's still standing there when their conversation is over. He didn't hear what they said? Bullshit. They were talking very loud, like idiots. And then they drop the title of the movie. They say it out loud, Rave to the Grave, roll credits. And then we get this, like, Cheech and Chong, like, rip off, basically. Like, they're supposed to be Cheech and Chong, these 2 stoners who look like they're 40, but they're hanging out at campus for some reason. And they're told to, escort the Becky chick and her boyfriend, whose dick she ripped off, to the hospital or something. And then they get, like, attacked, of course. And then the Russians, like, pull out. They get, like, their RPG out and they blow up the car. He's like, bullshit. And the other Russian corrects him, like, bull's eye. That's the correct phrase you're thinking of. I thought it would have been funnier if he like held it the wrong way. I thought they were gonna do that gag where he holds it the wrong way and the missile goes the opposite direction. And then for some reason the canister that was holding Tarman just opens itself up, and Tarman comes out, which he looked pretty cool. Not better than the original, but he looked pretty cool. Some cool, decent effects on him. And of course, he wants brains. But then they take things in a very silly direction where I was just rolling my eyes. Like he's hitchhiking. Tarman. He's on the side of the road holding a sign that says that. And it's like, really? He's like hitchhiking to the party that he somehow knows about? How does he know about that rave? They're changing the way these zombies act. Like, there's no consistency in this franchise with how these zombies act or how they're taken out. Like, in 4 and 5, they seem to just get shot and die quickly. Like, in the other ones, you had to shoot them in the head or remove the head or electrocute them. And now you can just stab drumsticks in their eyes and now they're dead, or pencils in the side of their ears and now they're dead. Like, they just die quickly. Like, they're not as strong and tough and harder to take out than they were before. So that's not really consistent here. And what else? So then we get these cheerleaders with very revealing outfits on. The one cheerleader gets her ass eaten. And so then the Russian guy and his partner, they show up with like AK-47s and they start blasting all these people away on college campus. And the local authorities never make an appearance in this film ever, no matter who's being attacked. And it's just crazy. So he like shoots all these zombies, but then he like has a moment of like friendly fire and he shoots a casualty, like a normal person. And then he's just like, whoops, my bad. And this one chick, Jenny, she's doing this experiment with the rats or gerbils or whatever, hamsters, whatever the fuck they're called. And of course that backfires and that causes a domino effect. The one rat or whatever animal bites the owner, and then he goes to his dorm and he bites the people there, and then chaos ensues on college campus. And everybody just thinks that they're zombies dressed up for the party later on. We get another friendly fire scene where the one guy, I forget his name, Cody, at the rave, when people are getting eaten left and right, he shoots an innocent person instead of a zombie. And he also, just like the Russian earlier, was like, oops, my bad. I hope he was a zombie. It's like, no, he was not a zombie. It's like, innocent people are getting shot left and right here. Then the Russians, they, for some reason, like, dress up like, what do they call, Vikings or something? Like, they steal these two girls' outfits. Why? Like, not everybody at this party is dressed up. You could have just walked on in. And if anybody ever walked up to you and said, hey, where are you supposed to be? You could have just said, we're men in black. All right? You didn't have to change outfits. It was just a stupid way to insert more cringy humor into the film that doesn't work. Anyways, I love how as more and more people are dying at this party, the party just never really seems to end, and no one ever really seems to notice that there's zombies running around and people's brains are getting eaten left and right. The party just keeps going. Even when the DJ literally like falls through the window making a scene, the party is still going after that. It's like bullshit. So then after that, the chopper comes in, and then they shoot a missile. We get like a CGI explosion, and then it like knocks the main characters out cold, and they wake up like the next morning, and there's still no cops, no army, no cleanup crew, nothing. Bullshit. Like, no one, where are they? They're in the middle of nowhere. No one heard a thing. No one called the authorities. No stragglers got to a phone or something and called the cops. No one was alerted. I call bullshit. And so yeah, and then Tarman, he's still alive, he's hitchhiking, he's still on the road, ready for bust, holding his thumb out, and then he just starts walking down the road as the credits roll. The end. Bad movie. Same composer of Drive Thru. I forgot to mention that. Drive Thru is a much better movie. It's a cool slasher from the mid-2000s. Check that out. This was the same composer as that movie. That's why I wrote that down, because that's a very fun slasher movie. Check that out. Not this movie. Hockey Mask Award for best character in this movie is the shorter Russian guy, the one Russian guy who says bullshit instead of bullseye. He is the only remotely entertaining character in the film. And Mr. Hanky Award for worst character in this movie, the one that annoyed me the most, is DJ Jeremy, the typical DJ douchebag. And the clap award for best scene in this movie is when the cheerleaders get attacked and the Russians show up with their AK-47s and they start blasting people away and shoot innocent people while they're at it. And the hottest chick in this movie is Jenny, the main girl. There's my thoughts on Return of the Living Dead. Rave to the grave. What are your thoughts on this movie? Are you a defender? Let me know what you like about this movie, what you hate about it. Does it offend you? Like it does the guy who wrote the review on IMDb. This movie offends him. Does it offend you? Let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.